In the heart of London, a mysterious letter found its way to the doorstep of the world's greatest detective. This was no ordinary morning for Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Their study, a room steeped in the rich aroma of tobacco and brimming with the electric anticipation of a new case, was about to become the epicenter of an enigma that would awaken Holmes from his self-imposed seclusion. The letter, an unmarked envelope, had arrived under the shroud of darkness, slipped beneath their door as silently as a shadow. It was a peculiar delivery, one that bore the fingerprints of Holmes's extensive network of covert contacts. This was no random piece of mail, it bore the weight of a mystery, a riddle cloaked in the unknown, impossible to ignore. Holmes, with the precision of a surgeon, retrieved the envelope, his keen senses noting its unusual weight and texture. The seal was unadorned, no distinctive insignia to hint at its origin, yet the quality of the paper and ink hinted at a message of great import. Upon opening the envelope, a chilling message was revealed, meticulously written in dark ink, pulsating with a desperate urgency. It was a plea for help, an appeal to Holmes's unparalleled intellect to catch a phantom from the past, a villain known only as the Zodiac killer. Watson, his curiosity piqued, leaned in to examine the cryptic message. "The Zodiac killer?" he echoed, a frown creasing his forehead. "I've heard whispers, but who is this elusive figure?" Holmes, his eyes gleaming with intrigue, began to unfold the tale of the Zodiac killer, an unidentified serial murderer from across the Atlantic. His crimes had left a trail of fear and confusion that no one had been able to unravel. With a renewed sense of purpose, Holmes embarks on the journey to solve the mystery of the Zodiac killer. The game is afoot, and the world's greatest detective is on the trail of one of history's most enigmatic criminals. The following chapters will take us deeper into the labyrinth of the Zodiac's cryptic messages and dreadful crimes. So, buckle up, for the chase has just begun. The Zodiac killer, a grim specter of the late 1960s, has remained an unsolved nightmare. A phantom whose shadow loomed over Northern California, he struck fear into the hearts of many with his series of gruesome killings. His reign of terror began in the cold month of December 1968, in the unsuspecting town of Benicia. There, he claimed his first known victims, high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. Both were shot to death in what seemed to be a lover's lane, a chilling beginning to a reign of terror. 7 months later, in July 1969, the killer struck again, this time near Lake Berryessa, where he targeted another couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. Unlike his first victims, he didn't use a gun. Instead, he used a knife, brutally stabbing them and leaving them for dead. Hartnell survived the ordeal, but Shepard, unfortunately, succumbed to her injuries. As if the murders weren't terrifying enough, the Zodiac killer added a macabre twist to his horrific spree. He sent a series of letters to local newspapers, taunting the authorities with his crimes. Each one contained a coded message, a cipher that he claimed would reveal his identity. This was a game to him, a sickening display of power and control. The authorities were baffled. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't make sense of the codes. The killer's ciphers, cryptic and complex, confounded even the best code breakers of the time. It was as if they were trying to catch a ghost, an elusive figure who was always one step ahead. The public was in a state of constant fear. Every new letter, every new cipher only served to remind them of the monster that lurked in their midst. The Zodiac killer wasn't just a murderer. He was a symbol of their deepest fears, a living nightmare that continued to haunt them. The killer's last confirmed letter arrived in the mail in 1974, but his terror didn't end there. Despite the passing years, his specter continued to loom large. Rumors swirled, theories were proposed, but the Zodiac killer's identity remained a mystery. Even today, the Zodiac killer has managed to elude capture. His identity remains unknown, a chilling reminder of a case that has yet to be solved. His ciphers, those cryptic messages that once taunted the authorities, continue to baffle code breakers and detectives alike. Despite the advancements in technology and forensics, the Zodiac killer's case remains one of the most infamous, unsolved mysteries in American history. The question remains, who was the Zodiac killer? Perhaps one day we'll have an answer. But for now, he remains a grim specter, a phantom that continues to haunt the annals of crime history. The Zodiac Killer has managed to elude capture. His identity remains unknown to this day. Opening, Holmes, with his unique intellect and analytical prowess, believes he can finally decipher the Zodiac Killer's cryptic messages. Holmes, known for his razor-sharp mind and keenly honed skills of deduction, had spent his years in seclusion immersing himself in the labyrinthine enigmas left by the Zodiac Killer. The cryptograms, each one a maddening puzzle, had become his constant companions. His study, once filled with the comforting scent of tobacco, now bore the heavy air of unrelenting concentration. These cryptic messages, concealing the identity of one of history's most elusive criminals, had baffled the world's finest codebreakers, yet Holmes was no ordinary mind. The detective, with his relentless pursuit of truth, had dedicated himself to unraveling the mystery of these ciphers. He had scrutinized each letter, each symbol, with an intensity that would outshine the brightest of spotlights. Over the years, Holmes had developed a deep understanding of the killer's communication patterns. He had traced the contours of the Zodiac's thought process, dissected the structure of his codes, and mapped the rhythm of his complex ciphers. Now he stood on the precipice of a breakthrough. Holmes's confidence was not misplaced. His conviction stemmed from his belief in the power of logic and reason. He knew that every riddle, no matter how complex, bore the seed of its solution within itself. And the Zodiac Killer's ciphers were no different. Holmes was poised to unlock the secrets that had remained shrouded in darkness for decades. But this was more than just a battle of wits. It was about justice, about putting an end to the reign of terror that had held Northern California in its icy grip. Holmes was not just solving a puzzle, he was on a quest to unmask a monster. Closing, the time has come for the world's greatest detective to unmask the Zodiac Killer. Despite the passing of time, the Zodiac Killer's identity and his cryptic messages remain an unresolved mystery. The chilling echo of his crimes and his elusive identity continue to haunt our collective consciousness, defying every attempt at resolution. Let us revisit our journey so far. We began with the arrival of a cryptic letter, a message shrouded in secrecy and urgency, delivered to the world-renowned detective Sherlock Holmes. A plea for help, a call to arms. The letter bore the weight of a terror that has spanned over 5 decades, the unsolved mystery of the Zodiac Killer. We delved into the darkness of the Zodiac's crimes, a series of brutal murders that shook the Northern Californian society in the late 60s. His victims were random, his methods ruthless, and his taunting letters to the press added a layer of psychological terror to his physical violence. The Zodiac Killer's reign of fear was not just about the lives he claimed, but also about the minds he terrorized. As we moved forward, we found ourselves drawn into the perplexing world of the Zodiac's ciphers. The coded messages sent to local newspapers remain one of the most intriguing aspects of this case. They have confounded the brightest minds, remaining stubbornly undeciphered, their secrets locked away in a web of symbols and numbers. Now we stand on the precipice of a new chapter in this enduring mystery. Sherlock Holmes, with his extraordinary intellect and singular focus, has taken on the challenge of deciphering the Zodiac's ciphers. Could he be the one to finally unravel the secrets that have remained hidden all these years? Could he bring to light the identity of the Zodiac Killer, bringing an end to this unsolved nightmare? The mystery continues to deepen, the anticipation builds, and the stakes have never been higher. Will Holmes, with his unmatched intellect, finally bring an end to this unsolved nightmare?